Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and today we have some Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, and this video is going to teach you guys all of these strange quirks about the weaponry here in Modern Warfare Remastered. You see, back in Call of Duty 4, for some reason, a lot of the guns in that game were bugged. They didn't perform right in certain situations. There's a lot of weird quirks to the weaponry, and Raven Software, being the fantastic studio that they are, they decided to recreate all these weird bugs and quirks and put them into Modern Warfare Remastered. So some of these are going to be downright hilarious. They're going to make it so your weapon just doesn't perform right in certain spots, whereas other quirks are actually things that make the weapon a lot more powerful and stuff that you should probably know about your weapon if you want to be more successful here in Modern Warfare Remastered. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. The first quirk is going to be my personal favorite, the Silenced G3. So if you try to knife somebody while using a Silenced G3, it just simply isn't going to work. You guys are watching the gameplay here. You press your knife button, and then you're going to follow your guy around. Like, you can drop your controller after pressing the knife button, and your character will automatically follow your target and then eventually knife them. There's a giant delay. It's almost as if you're using a throwing knife. It is such an odd quirk, and it's only if you use a silencer on the G3. Like, you can do this just fine with any other weapon. If you're using a red dot sight on the G3, it works just fine. If you're using an ACOG sight, it works just fine. It's only the Silenced G3 that will actually give you this result, and I think it's personally absolutely hilarious. In fact, one person, only one so far, was actually using a Silenced G3. They tried to knife me. I just had to laugh at them because they had no idea. Their knife just simply would not work. The next quirk is actually going to be more of a general one. So most of the weapons here in Modern Warfare Remastered don't have idle sway, something to bear in mind. In fact, if you look at these submachine guns, the only SMG that has idle sway is the AK-74U. Of all the assault rifles, none of them have idle sway with the exception of the AK-47, the M4 carbine, as well as the G36C. Most of the weapons in this game don't have idle sway, so try to use that to your advantage. Speaking of idle sway, the snipers have a bunch of it, but the R700 has approximately 50% more idle sway than the rest of the snipers in the game. On the left-hand side of your screen there, you see the M40A3. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see the R700. As you guys can tell, they both kick around a bit, but the R700 definitely kicks around a lot more than the M40A3 sniper rifle. Next up, let's talk about the AK-74U. We've already mentioned it. It is the only submachine gun in the game that actually has idle sway, but it also has a number of other quirks. For example, if you use a red dot sight on your AK-74U, your hipfire accuracy is that of an assault rifle, and the same thing goes for a silencer. So if you decide to use a red dot or a silencer on your AK-74U, you will have assault rifle style hipfire as compared to your traditional submachine gun style hipfire. Also, the AK-74U has assault rifle style wall penetration. Now, the best way I could give you guys an example of this is I'm going to try and shoot my brother through this wall here with the MP5. The MP5 actually has very comparable stats to the AK-74U, and as you guys can see, I can't hit him through the wall to save my life. But if I swap over to the AK-74U, I can very easily shoot him through the wall, and if you decide to use deep impact on your AK-74U, it only took me 3 bullets. Like, it's actually very powerful, so that is one of the reasons why the AK-74U is one of my favorite weapons in the game. Use either no attachment or ACOG, but don't use ACOG, guys. Use no attachments on the AK-74U. You will have SMG style hipfire, assault rifle style wall penetration, and a very powerful submachine gun that is very comparable to the MP5 in terms of performance. Next up, let's talk about the M40A3 and the fact that if you add an ACOG sight, you do 5 more damage than you would normally. Now, this portion of the video is going to involve a little bit of math, but I hope you guys sit back and try to understand it, because if you do, you'll understand how sniper rifles work in the Call of Duty franchise and why you get hit markers versus why you don't get hit markers at certain times. So the M40A3 by itself does 70 damage, and in fact, every single sniper rifle in Modern Warfare Remastered does 70 damage. Stopping power gives you 40% more damage to your weapon, so 40% of 70 is 28 damage. So if you're using stopping power on the M40A3, you will do 98 damage by default, which by itself is not enough to actually one-hit kill anybody. The reason why you can actually get one-hit kills with a weapon that doesn't even do 100 damage is because of damage multipliers. Every sniper in the game has damage multipliers, and they actually vary sniper to sniper. On the M40A3, you have a 1.1 damage multiplier to the stomach and to the chest, which which means if you're using stopping power, you can one-shot a non-Juggernaut player in the stomach and the chest. The thing about the M48-3 with ACOG is for some reason the ACOG gives you 5 more base damage, so now you're doing 75 damage by default. 40% of 75 is 30, which means you are doing 105 damage by default with the M48-3 with ACOG, which means even if you shoot them in the limbs, which only has a 1.0 damage multiplier, you can still get a one-hit kill. This means if you have the M48-3 with an ACOG sight and you're shooting at somebody that does not have Juggernaut, you can one-shot them anywhere in the body, including the feet, which is absolutely insane. Next up, let's talk about the M249 saw. This is kind of an odd one here. The foregrip itself actually tightens up the hip fire of the M249 saw. So if you're looking to hip fire with your light machine gun, foregrip actually helps out quite a bit on the saw, but not on any other light machine gun in the game. The AK-47, this is actually one that people talk about quite a bit. I did a bunch of testing on this. So the rumor going around was that the red dot sight and the silencer reduce your damage at range on the AK-47. This is actually true to an extent. So the silencer itself actually severely reduces your range on the AK-47. In fact, areas where you can two-shot somebody with stopping power require 4 shots at the same distance if you're using a silencer. The red dot sight, however, you basically kill in the same amount of bullets until you get to a very, very far range. Once you're super far away, a no attachments AK-47 or an ACOG AK-47 will actually kill in 1 less bullet than a red dot sight AK-47. The silencer at a distance is absolutely terrible. So the big downside, I suppose, to the silencer is once you get to a medium range, it requires almost double the bullets of a non-attachment AK-47, which is why most people, myself included, run no attachments on their AK. Red dot sight, the rumor is the red dot sight is awful. It really isn't that bad. It's actually very comparable to the no attachment AK-47 until you get to a super far range. Once you get to a super far range, it requires 1 less bullet with no attachments as compared to the red dot sight itself. So just keep that in mind. I definitely think the best way to go with the AK is no attachments, but if you prefer a silencer, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not nearly as optimal as no attachments. And the red dot sight is very, very comparable, but still not as good as no attachments. The Dragunov. Now, we actually talked a lot about snipers and damage multipliers. So the Dragunov itself has no 1.1 or 1.4 damage multipliers, which means stopping power is useless on this weapon. It's the one sniper rifle in the game that does not get a benefit from stopping power whatsoever. It will still one-shot people in the same areas with or without stopping power. The only time stopping power is useful on the Dragunov is if you're shooting at a Juggernaut. That is the one time it's useful. If you shoot a Juggernaut in the chest with a stopping power Dragunov, it will be a one-hit kill, but aside from that, stopping power is pretty much useless on that weapon, whereas it's very useful on every other sniper rifle in the game. The final quirk for this video is going to be the Scorpion, and this one is super frustrating. How many of you guys have tried using the Scorpion already? The reload animation on the Scorpion is faster than the actual reload itself. The reload animation is done, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, time to move forward, I'm done reloading, but you're not. Even though the animation itself is done, watch the bullet counter is not actually full yet, which is super freaking frustrating whenever you try to use the Scorpion, which is already a pretty terrible gun. Like, it has a really up-close 2-shot kill range, but it has like the worst range of any weapon in the game. It's absolutely terrible. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude my little quirks video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I hope you guys all found it helpful and informative. Now, I'm sure I missed out on a couple of things here, but I think I covered most of the major ones. But of course, I'd love to hear down there in the comment section below if I missed out on anything. I'd love to hear about that. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I hope you guys all found it helpful and informative. If you did, please drop me a rating. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.